All right, all of you freedom-loving boys and girls, whomever you are, wherever you are on this awesome blue marble of a planet we call Earth, Mark Centerline Systems. Hey, this is our Independence Day kind of prep final live stream before we go to the new schedule next week. We've got my dear friend and just great human being, Blake, is coming on. He's right now in the ready room just waiting. I just got done talking to him, so we're good to go on the commo. And we're going to sit and talk about community, preparedness, and resiliency, you know, those type of subjects. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter live stream. It looks like we already got a comment here. Gene from across the pond saying big woo from him and his nemesis, MCC. You are most welcome. Hey, and as always, as we try to let the algorithm do its algorithmic bullshit, just a couple quick little things, little housekeeping here, Centerline Systems. So the Independence Day sale, we're in our last week of it. It's all over the website. It's on the top of the website, and on the top of every product page is the code to use. So I'm not going to put the code up because I thought this quote from Edmund Burke was more appropriate for what we're going to discuss here tonight. But anyway, that's on the website. So whether you're watching live or on demand, we're going to run that until the end of Independence Day weekend. And then, you know, and I've mentioned this before, you know, just this economy sucks. You know, I'm not going to point fingers and say who's responsible, but the economy sucks. Things are going to have to go up. Prices are going to go up a little bit. So, you know, hey, you do you. Take advantage of it or don't take advantage of it. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, Centerline Systems. Hey, look, we're a handcrafted shop, and I really mean it. All of my material, and I'll tell a little story about our material based on a customer conversation I had last week. And not a bad conversation. I don't mean it that way. Just the guy was really surprised. I don't think he's really ever touched real, no shit, Kadura brand, made in America, mil-spec Kadura. But if you've got little tweaks, so this won't be able to go out in the mail today, but it'll go out tomorrow. Customer just wanted to have a little modification. All you got to do is reach out, right? That's what I'm here for. And don't also forget, and then this person might be watching tonight. You know, even you see me talk about some things every now. Here, I'll just do this the other way so I'm not being all upside down and backwards. But, you know, every now and then, you know, like I just found this Cryptech, you know, I think this was a few months ago. Well, someone reached out and asked if I still had it, wanted a belt made in Cryptech. This will go out in the mail tomorrow. And then the Swamp Green buckles, as a matter of fact, and that's Blake, Fog Firearms. That's where we get our buckles Cerakoted, Austro-Alpine buckles. But anyway, so yeah, they wanted one of these, just reached out and said, hey, do you still have any of that? And can I do this? And can I do that? Hey, if we can do it, we'll do it. Right? That's kind of what it's all about. That's what you get here. It looks better because it is better. Centerline Systems. Angry Viking chiming in saying, I made it in time to watch it live. All right, Angry Viking, nice to see you. I think we missed you the last couple times. But and then before I bring in Blake, one last final comment here, excuse me, is oh, these lights really just got really bright here. I don't know what's going on here today. There we go. Bright. Not so bright, whatever. You know, I don't want to bald anyone with my bald, or I don't want to blind anyone with my baldness. Hey, but I don't know what the hell I was just about to say. What was I just going to say there? Oh, the lives. Okay, so the last thing, and I'll say this again at the end. So we're changing our schedule. So this is the last live stream for this week, and then next week we'll start again. But the lives are only going to be on Thursdays, and you know, because I needed to start doing more content video, and then Blake and I are going to be talking about some other type of content we're going to start producing. So on the 11th of July, we'll be back here at 1700 Central Daylight Time. And that's when we'll bring the lives back. All right. Without further ado, let's just bring up Gene. Swamp Green. Love that color. Yeah, it's pretty damn sweet. Blake, are you good to go down there? You ready, sir? All right. Here we go. Without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, Blake from Fog Firearms. Blake, you've been on in the past. But as always, you know, you never know. You might have new people. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself before we dive into the meat and potatoes of tonight.
Well, first off, I have a really shitty legend, so. But no, I'm Blake from northern Minnesota. I've got a gunsmithing company. We do a lot of customization stuff. For those of you that haven't heard, anywhere from Cerakote, as Mark just kind of touched on, to custom rifle builds, to general training courses, and just sourcing of about anything you're looking for. I actually want to touch real quick on that Cryptech belt. That thing's cool. I didn't realize you'd ever had Cryptech material. So this is that shameless plug from my side. If anybody would like to buy a Cryptech belt from Mark and would like their firearm to match the pattern, we do a lot of Cryptech pattern work with Cerakote. So
Yeah. And just on that note, why not? Let's just make the plug. You're here.
yeah,
So
why not?
look, and I'll grab my canteen right over there, but that distressed orange and then the swamp green color, and I think that's the one that you guys created. So if you go to Cerakote, like that's the one that it's now a color on Cerakote, or was it
No,
a different
it's not
color?
actually a color on Cerakote. It's a blend that we do using Ranger green and a little bit of something else. But that's one of the beautiful things about Cerakote is, let's say, for instance, you do want a pattern or a color that's unique to you. The stuff blends really well. So like we can take, color X and add, 36 mils of it, and then like 1 or 2 mil of another color, just to kind of blend the color and custom choose and custom make our own palette. So it really allows for a unique spin for your own gear. But that's kind of getting in the weeds. We can talk about that if it's something you are interested in.
Yeah. Well, just to throw that out there, though, because I think that should either be with where we go next. And I'm not talking tonight. I'm talking what we're going to discuss.
The grand 10,000-foot view next.
Yeah. But whether it's the Hydra dip, whether it's the Cerakote, those type of options. I mean, that stuff is just badass, and you guys have the capability of doing all that. Hey, I gotta, before we jump into it, just out of fairness and because it's a good comment, and I don't know if you can see any of this stuff with your phone, but learn me something. Just said, proud Papa Blake. How's the baby doing? So I don't
he's
know
very proud and very tired. He's doing great. So I don't want to give too much information around about him, but he's got a small little body. He's still a peanut, but his head is in the 77th percentile. So he's just, hopefully it's all for brains, right? But no, he's doing real good. He sleeps through the night for the most part. Wife is doing great. Unfortunately, her maternity leave is starting to kind of come towards an end. So real life is beckoning, but it's awesome, man. Thank you for asking. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, and real life is beckoning because that is real life, and that's maybe a nice even segue just to go into community, right? And
yeah, well, and I guess that's what it's about, right? So I guess for a little background of where I'm at right now, you find me in the car again. The last couple I haven't really been in my quote unquote studio, which is just a desk. I am actually building the studio though. But anyway, where I'm at right now is I'm on a lake that holds a lot of really significant importance to me. It was the lake that I came up to as a child when I was just a wee tyke, and it was the first body of water I was ever in my life. And here my son is now on that same lake, years and years later, getting to start experience that same thing. It's that family tradition, and what's more than just family tradition, it is in the cultural fabric of who we are. And that's kind of one of the big things that we're here to talk about tonight. And I know this is, we're going to beat it like a dead horse. Me and Mark talk about this a lot. It's community. And, you kind of ask, what is community? What are we striving to build? What is the goal here? You throw this term around, and community can mean a lot of things. Is it the place where buildings have been built, houses are built, and operations take place, or is it the people and the stories inside of those structures that make community? What is a community? And I think that's something that we really kind of need to lay out the guidelines for, at least in this theoretical sense of how we're moving, as far as me and Mark and a few of our professional individuals and very dear friends are trying to kind of go, and what we're trying to start to provide. And, yes, you need those structures, and you need to know how to build those structures. But what's more important is the fabric of the people that hold those things together. And I think that's kind of what we're going to want to talk about tonight. Wouldn't you agree, Mark?
Yeah, sorry. I was just trying to upload that PowerPoint that we'll maybe bring up, but I think that's exactly it. So just for everybody watching, this isn't going to necessarily be this is going to be a slight deviation from what we've done in the other live streams. And actually, just a real quick before we get into the meat and potatoes, because the other piece of housekeeping I failed, Blake, is but I do want to just thank everybody one more time for participating in the charity auction, for Readiness Training Group. So again, this does dovetail to what we're talking about. So just huge hats off and thanks to all of you men and women. You're great individuals. You see the value of that. This isn't about, I just know that, my customers and the people watching this, you're not the people who are like, oh, I hate all cops. Yeah, there's areas that need to be addressed there. And there's so many areas that need to be addressed in so many facets of our life. You don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. And when good people are out doing good things, we capitalize on that. We try to support that. So I just wanted to like capitalize on that moment and just say again, thanks to all of you men and women. Even if you didn't buy a ticket, I know some people have made donations, you know, kind of anonymous. We don't know if they were customers or not, you know, he ain't going to share all that information, you know, nor should he, but it's just really cool. So that's how we get this going. So huge thanks and huge shout out to everybody who helped out with that. And then
Absolutely.
Blake, is that kind of,
Yeah, it got me.
Yeah.
There's something I want to say. You know, I mean, and that's the thing. Community is charity to an extent. You know, I don't want to say that charity is an absolute core tenet of that community, but once your house is together, you know, once a community is built, what better thing to do than reach out and try to build other community, to try to help other people out, to try to expand the influence you have through your community in a peaceful fashion. Because, you know, for one, that charitable action that may help out somebody that needs something. Okay, that's first off, it's just good. We should all be striving to do that. And we shouldn't be striving to do that in front of a camera. I'm not saying, hey, listen, Mark, you know, what you're doing is great. I'm just saying a lot of people anymore, when they do charity, it's, hey, I've given this homeless guy a cheeseburger and I've filmed myself for it. Aren't I a cool guy? All right, that's not the goal. You know, the goal is when we look into others' bowls, we're looking to see if there's enough. All right. And once we have been able to establish our own community where we can take care of those inside of our body of family, friends, and tribe, then it's time to look and see how can we expand that tribe. Not necessarily meaning bringing somebody into the tribe, but just making sure they have enough, that their needs are taken care of. You know, Mark was talking to me earlier today about a situation he had recently, listening to an individual talking about what he would do in the first 30 days of a quote unquote collapse situation. And I'm going to go ahead and hand that off to you, Mark, before I go any further on that. So.
Well, and I was just going to like, you can tell the story too, but I just want to like, you know, let's just, you know, look, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, and truth be told, and I don't know if Blake will bring this up, but Blake just heard me, you know, wrestling with the morality of why didn't I call this guy out for the bullshit he was doing? Right. You know, it's not my event. I was just a person there, just, you know, observing and watching, just like, you know, everybody else. But to hear what was coming out of somebody's mouth, in my humble opinion, for what it's worth, goes completely against the thought of community. You are the bad guy if you kind of talk this way or think this way. And Blake, you know, community, I kind of want to turn it over to you, but without getting into specifics, I don't want to throw the guy, you know, completely under the bus.
No,
I don't want to get sued for defamation. Like, oh, you misunderstood him. Like, no, I was right there. You spoke English, and this is what you said. But
so let me speak generalities then, because I can kind of do the story justice without giving anything away. So an individual is delivering a speech on what happens in the first 30 days after a collapse situation. Okay, so kind of a little bit of a loaded topic on the front point, but he was talking about preparedness for him and his family and what he would do. And the implication that he laid forward was that if his neighbors had a full bowl and his bowl was not full, that he would, through any means necessary, take from his neighbors to fill his bowl, including violently. Yeah. And, you know, to that point, that's really...
And just to add on to it, just hang on, and just to add a little flavor, and there were a handful of people who raised their hands in agreement with him. And like, you know, he was trying to phrase it differently, but that is in essence.
Yeah, let's talk bluntly. You know, we don't need to dance around the bush. Let's call a spade, right?
Yeah.
So to that point, you know, it's concerning because what we're setting to build out here in our quote unquote community, this training organization, preparedness group, whatever you may well want to call it, is an understanding that these are some basic skills you need. Maybe you don't possess, or maybe you do possess, but you're not going to be able to possess them all. And we need to build this community where we can rely upon each other, because civilization is not built by breaking down the other and taking. Okay, now a lot of historical examples, listen, I stand corrected on that. You know, we can look constantly at conquering nation, might is right, etc. I understand that. And there is something in the brutality of the world that there's some truth to that. But compassion is a much more powerful thing, and it builds lasting bonds, and it builds something that can stand beyond the epoch that is just your age and the time, these mere 60, 70, 80 years, if we're lucky, that we have on this planet. You know, what we're trying to do here, and I don't want to seem too gravitas with this, but it's trying to build a framework that can last beyond us. All right. Well, if your goal...
Just real quickly, and just to add to that, it's not just a framework that lasts beyond that. It's a framework that even people who aren't in our community, like, and I mean from like a physical space type of perspective, right? Because this is a community right here too, right? We can start building it, even using this, you know, what is unfortunately, you know, used and misused quite often, but this is a great tool. And so for anyone watching this, whether it's on the live or on demand, those people can be part of that community as well, even if we're not ever going to be there and be able to rely on each other or have a beer or share a laugh.
I'll even go one step further. Let's
Yeah.
say we never even get to build our community. Okay, our theoretical community. Our hope is to at least provide those blueprints as best as we are capable with the knowledge sets that we've gathered through our lifetime and that we've brought together under one roof. Okay, the idea here is to create a template. All right, some people might be able to go out and honestly, let's just say maybe one of you guys are listening and you hit it big in cryptocurrency and you really want to do a community. You might actually have those means to just by yourself do that, bring the people in, all that kind of stuff. Other people, we can do it individually from part to part, from a dozen eggs from our backyard chickens to a gallon of milk from the cow that we have in our pasture to a little bit of carpentry that maybe we're doing to help out somebody in the community because they don't have those skills. Our goal here is to augment as much of the skill set that we have individually and bring it together under one roof. And, to me, to create a lasting something that actually is worth lasting, not even necessarily something that will last, but something that is worth lasting. You don't do that by going and pilfering your neighbor's pantry. You might as well be the scum at that point that just takes advantage of their family in multiple fashions and just kills them and burns the house down. Because, this is not how you build community. This is not how civilization was founded. Stand corrected from the historical side. Some civilization was founded that way, but this is not the civilization. We want to move forward, understanding what we now know as a people and where our ethical alignment goes. And let's be honest, where the founders had laid down before us. So.
Hey, and then just because, you and I, in our just the way we do things, we just kind of jumped into it full, with both feet. And we just kind of didn't really set the stage. We didn't really lay out our argument, our premise, any of that kind of stuff. But I think everybody kind of gets it already. We're talking about community, right? And we're talking about, finding those ways to be more self-reliant and more prepared. And as Blake and I've said in the past many times, this doesn't necessarily mean kinetic. I think so many people out there think, when they hear the word preparedness or prep or whatever, they think for some reason kinetic. And and on to that point, I can maybe see how that comes about as the story we just told, right? Something I just experienced recently. And I'm sure many other people have seen on social media. If you follow any of these type of accounts, or if you see some of the comments, call them trolls, call them just crazies, call them the Lord Humongous, the Ayatollah of rock and roll, the Lord of the Wasteland, or whatever his thing is. But
now I seriously want to go watch some Mad Max movies. Show us the in-store prices and the suffering will end.
Go away. Just give up the oil and no one else needs to get hurt. Like that kind of shit. Is that really the community you want to build? Is that the future you want to be living in? Because, again, and so kind of.
I don't want my son raised in a warlord tribe.
But along that premise, there are people. And God bless you. And I mean this very seriously. If everything of the last 4 years has barely troubled you, right? And if your decision-making, if your decision-making process, your military decision-making, MDMP or your matrix, if your scenario is, you're just not going to get that new Lamborghini this year, but you're still going to do, these other things. God bless you. And I again, no harm, no foul. I don't begrudge anybody
for
that.
You. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yep. But if you're like anyone else, and you're looking at how much, groceries have gone up and gas and all of these other things, if you're, so I'll just if you're like me and I'm a small business owner. So, somebody thinks small business owners are flying around in helicopters, whatever, man, come on here and work in the shop for a day or two and then, see the books. But so I'm already looking at that. And I consider myself a normal guy. I put my pants on just like anyone else. These issues that Blake and I have been talking about and that we're going to bring forward here in the very near future and try to address and try to create some type of infrastructure or template by which we can use our backgrounds, our experiences to help other like-minded people. So maybe you can be and maybe that helps you. And just my last comment, I'll turn over to Blake. This recent kind of event, this occurrence, I was incredibly amazed. Like people weren't there. I thought I was going to see this is a great place to talk about canning. This is and I had just water bathed 2 dozen eggs that Blake could just give me. Blake's got real chickens. I just water bath. There's one of them way over there.
As
I just
opposed
water
to fake chickens.
Well, did I say fake chickens?
No, you said Blake has real chickens. I was just giving, as opposed to fake chickens.
Well, but you know what I mean, like grocery
I
store
do.
versus natural, right?
Well,
and
and
because
Big
you
Visk
can't
is
water. Well, you just can't water glass natural or correction store-bought eggs. It has to be natural. But my final point here though is like these are there are some kinetic things. There are definitely some physical fitness things. There's some mental things. There's some tactical, and that tactical, a lot of the stuff that's tactical is also just survival, land navigation, medicine, shelter, fire, like this type of stuff. So don't anyone think this is like, oh, Blake and marketers talking about,
cool guy stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, we're not this
that's
other guy. Yeah, that's not what
10,000 days
do.
in the fire, man. 10,000 days in the fire. We are each here on this planet for a certain amount of period of time. Why would, I mean, and yes, you should be prepared for it, but why would I spend every waking moment of my life thinking about an event that could potentially happen in one of those 10,000 days? Yes, you should think about it. Yes, you should try to prepare as best as you can for it. But why would you spend your entire life fretting about something kinetic that you may, and God willing, never have to find yourself in? I mean, so I want to touch on a couple of the comments here real quick. Hi, first off, Tennessee. Sorry.
No, you can't steal my thunder. That's my okay.
Well, there's
that's
where
I was going to go.
So Big Visk. Just want to touch on Big Visk.
Just slow down.
All right.
Let me just catch up then. So if we're going to do
your thing.
Because I like reading everybody's comments. So
I don't want to steal your thunder, brother. Go ahead.
Well, I was just waiting for you to kind of finish where you were, and then I was going to do read the comments and then come back over to.
Well, I wanted to touch on what Big Visk said because it actually has to go with where I was going.
Then let me get caught up on comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so here we go. And so you actually can read those, though, Blake. You can see them on your phone. Okay, good. I didn't know if they'd be too small, but so here's Tennessee. Hi, you boys. Late, but here. Hi, Blake. Tennessee. I'll just do it again. Go back and watch the beginning of the video. This will ship tomorrow. Oh, I probably did it a little bit too fast. So I already talked about that.
Sorry, mosquito in the car right now.
You got to kill that guy.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so there's that. Now we got Angry Viking Veteran.
Well, I do want to touch really quick, by the way. Hi, Tennessee. And to your point, if you are who I think you are, I have not got an answer to you yet on cheatgrass. We do not have cheatgrass in our area. I have not found anything in any of the documentation that I have, but I will dig into it a little bit more for you. So
okay, all right, yeah, there. See, we're Tennessee. We didn't forget about you. We didn't forget about you. Actually, you came up in our pregame to make sure we had a spot to address that previous question from.
I actually did bring that up. I had been thinking about it. I just don't know about the cheatgrass yet. I haven't had to deal with it, thank God. But yet another thing that came from Asia that screwed up a lot of stuff.
All right, and then here we go. Then let me just run through these, and then we'll get back on track here. But Angry Viking Veteran, you may be able to rob the weak, but when the weak band together, you may find yourself robbed, or they may rob you, or you may be robbed yourself. Well, okay, and that is. Be like, even if you just don't want to, even if you want to take morals out of the equation and just simply look at it from and what if those people band together and they injure me or injure one of my family members? And I just think, again, it's one of the most disgusting things I see. Oh, I'm just going to stockpile ammo and take everybody else's shit. Like right then and there, I'm like, all right, you just made my list.
You're my enemy.
Yep,
yeah.
You are my enemy. Yep.
Yeah.
Nice to see a servant of Satan so open about it. Big Visk, it's not that hard to store rice and beans in 5-gallon bucks in my Mylar bags.
And read his next comment too. Yeah.
Okay, let's get into this. All right, but hang on. We'll come back to it because we got 2 more. So don't just respond to Big Visk. Yeah, we'll come right back to it. So Big Visk says, then get chickens. They are easy to raise. And after that, you're outside of my experience. That's as far as I've gotten. But okay, we'll get back to that. And then Tennessee responded to the belt saying, yeah, baby, explosion. Tennessee likes to blow things up, I'm noticing. Thank God she doesn't have access to C4 or AMFO or something like that. But
Semtex is not for you.
Boom. Renegade Arms. This is our winner from our charity auction, by the way. Eric, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yep. And he said, if I was closer, I'd hook you up with eggs. I got so many, they're coming on my ears. Water glass those things, Eric. Water glass those things.
If you don't know about water glassing, it's awesome. Yeah, It really is. It's refrigeration for eggs before refrigeration.
And then final comment, and then we'll come back over to Big Visk where you wanted to jump in here. Tennessee, no worries, Blake. All good. We'll get there.
Indeed.
talking about Semtex. Maybe she'll get
No,
there. I don't know what she
no, not Simtex. She's talking about the cheatgrass. And I
the
think that's kind of, again, this goes into that community thing is, listen, I don't know everything, you don't know everything, but you might know something I don't know, and I might know something you don't know. So if we can have that exchange of information, we're all better off because of it. You know, one of
Hey, just right there, hey, Bruce, real
Yeah.
quickly, and then right there, that is exactly it. There is, even if you were independently wealthy and you could spend 20 hours of your day doing all the
Reading.
training and everything, you're never going to know everything. It's just it's physically impossible, right? Unlike
And then
unlike those guys out in Los Angeles who were claiming, I can't remember if they're firefighters or cops, they were claiming more overtime than there were actually hours in the month.
That was employees of a governor. They were actually claiming more hours than were actually possible in a pay period, and they were getting paid 3 years for that. But I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too far with that one, because that's a story for another day.
But and so just bring it in there though. So you cannot do this alone, right?
No.
You need a group, you need a community, a clan, whatever you want to call it, a friendship circle. I don't care what you call it, but you have to find people that you can trust, you can rely on. And look, and we're human beings, and like I'm fallible and I have my shortcomings. Blake does, and so does everybody else who's watching, right? But that doesn't mean we kick everybody to the curb. Like, oh, Mark is being Mark, and he's just asking too many questions again today. Why don't we just, like whatever it is, we all have those things.
One of my favorite anecdotal little stories was actually one of the first times me and Mark ever hung out. Actually, it was the first time, Mark, you've ever come to my house. I don't know if you'll remember this story, but I was showing him around my 8 acres that I have, and we were kind of walking through the forest. And I had lived in Minnesota for a while, not from here, full disclosure. At least I now have a true native Minnesotan with my son. But anyway, we were walking around my property and we were looking at the red and whites. And I'm really blessed to have some 75-plus-year-old red and white pines that are, 2 foot at the base and larger all over my property. And I told Mark, I said, hey, I don't know the difference between a red and a white pine. And so he explained it to me. And this was the first walk we'd ever had on our property together, first real time outside of work relationship that we'd been bonding. And Mark actually thanked me. And he said, thank you for asking about this. I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, so many people would look at it and they go, I know it's a pine tree. I don't need to know any more about it. And you were willing to actually go, hey, I don't know. Do you know? And could you enlighten me? And that is the core principle of really what we're trying to do here, is realizing what our shortcomings are. And to that point, I think a very, very important thing, and this is, listen, I could talk here all night. I'd love to, but I got family. We're going to have homemade pizza tonight. I got a lot of family things to do. So I do have to focus on that community building, because that's like the most important community building, right? But what we're talking about here tonight is how do we build that greater community? And one of the things me and Mark talked about a little bit before here tonight is, okay, what do we do? So let's look ourselves as an individual. All right. Let's see what our benefits and what our weaknesses are in a community. All right. So maybe a good way to get started with that is take stock and inventory of what you have at your house. What are the tools that are at your disposal to potentially maybe help keep you moving when something catastrophic happens? What are the skills that you possess? And I don't mean just sit there and think about it. I mean, actually make a list. Write down what your strong points are and what your weak points are. Figure out what it is. Now start thinking through the people that you know personally. Write down their skills, figure out how they augment your ability, start building that community on a small scale, on paper. Once we start putting things on paper, once we start breathing life into it and thinking through it in a logical fashion, it starts to become reality. And one of the things I think Mark is going to want to touch on is a class that we're actually looking at teaching here shortly. That's, I believe, called the First 72, correct, Mark?
Yeah. And I'll just see if we have time. And then I know you might bounce. I might just show a slide or two after you're gone, but that's probably to Blake's point. I think this is probably one of the first things that we'll do when we start creating, and we're not going to say the name yet because some
beggar, how it is.
Yeah, some beggar Richards out there will go and try to get the URL or some shit. So we're almost there. We actually had a good conversation about it today. So stay tuned. But yeah, I might do that after you bounce. I want you to come back up and give Big Visk the props, because you wanted to.
Okay. So I actually didn't even touch on what I was going to say about Big Visk. So Big Visk, you were talking about Mylar blankets, or not Mylar blankets, Mylar bags for food. You're talking about chicken production. So there's a lot of things we can easily do. And this is actually a class that I would really like to kind of teach, is some of the methodology that we've come up with on how to properly prepare food and how to create things for long-term storage. Nitrogen purging. Okay. Huge thing. You can take an apple put it in a sealed container, nitrogen purge it, come back in a couple of years, pull that thing out of that nitrogen purge container and bite off a crisp apple. Okay. There are ways to augment your food storage that can last beyond our lifetimes. And I quite literally mean our lifetimes. We might have touched on this a little bit last time I was on the live stream. If not, I'll just really quickly run through it again. If you were to buy your flour for your family's consumption, so let's just say a family of 4 for 30 years worth of time, we're talking every cake, every loaf of bread, every pancake, every waffle, every muffin, every biscuit that you make in a year for 30 years, you can approximately buy that flour in bulk for between $2 and $3 grand, depending on where you source it at. Then you have to talk about proper storage. There are ways to store it properly where, again, Mylar bags, like Vic had brought up. If you augment that inside of a barrel, then that is nitrogen purge. We're increasing that life longer. Again, our biggest enemies here is oxygen and sunlight. If we can eliminate these two things, we can store food nearly indefinitely. So now, forecast out 30 years. We're talking $2 to $3 grand. You have to bake it. You have more labor involved, but that's a huge savings because when you consider at current market prices right now, if I was to go out and buy a loaf of bread twice a week, I think is what I did the math on. Maybe it was 3 times a week, but I think it was twice a week. For a family of 4, you're looking at spending approximately 30 grand over that 30-year just in bread alone. So how, go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was just going to say, so bullshit bread in the grocery store
that's not real bread.
Between $5 and $6 a loaf. So depending on how much you consume, and how large your family is, do the math right there. I mean, that's what it is here in northern Minnesota. I mean, so
it's going to be different in different cities and such. So the thing is, and here's the thing. All right, so back in the olden days, all right, you had a little village, maybe 400 people lived in that village. Okay. Most people didn't have an oven in their house. They would take it to a local area to the baker. They would actually put a special symbol that meant their family on the top of their loaf of bread. They would take it in, they'd have it baked, they'd pick it up at the end of the day. So they had bread for the next day and they'd do this every day. All right. This again goes into that community thing. Maybe not all of us want to build a giant bread oven. Hey, but maybe somebody really wants a bread oven and they find that super cool. Oh, you got 15 friends. Everyone needs bread. Great. Let's all start a sourdough starter. Everyone can make their own loaves. Bring it in the morning. Homie cooks all those bread loaves through the day. Everyone comes at the end of the night, breaks bread together, community building, and everyone has bread for the next day. And it's fresh. It's higher protein. It's higher content for you because that's the nice thing. If we're making our own bread, we can dope it. Okay, we can put whey powder in it. If we really wanted to, we can mix algae into it to actually increase the protein content as well. There's a plethora of things we can do to augment our own food source that's healthier for us, more bioavailable nutrient-wise than anything you're going to buy in the store. And I guarantee you will feel better after having, that loaf of bread with some of your homemade butter from your own cow while you're putting your own salami on it and your own farm cheddar on it. That's going to be a million times more beneficial for you, more bioavailable when it comes to nutrients than anything if you tried to repeat that at the store, buying something that's been through how many different processes to make it more stable. I had a loaf of bread. Okay, and this is I'm gonna shame myself a little bit. New father here. I've not been cleaning up as well as I should. I had a loaf of bread that we got from a thing called Ruby's Pantry. All right, so already expired bread. You pay $25 a month. You can get one share. You get like a truckload of food. It's all stuff from like grocery stores and restaurants. It's about to expire. You get it for dirt cheap. I had a loaf of bread from Ruby's Pantry, and this was the 7-grain bread, the supposedly more natural bread. It sat on my table for 2 months after it was already expired when I picked it up, and it still looked just fine. That ain't food. I don't care what anyone says.
Well, now that though, unfortunately, could just be because of all the chemicals and preservatives that go into our breads, right? But
in our food in general, man.
Yeah. Well, and actually that comment right there just made me think of Evan Sambita. And I'm not, Evan, if you watch this, don't get mad at me. This is I'm actually giving you a shout out here. Like Evan talks about, like Evan, he sources his own protein, right? He's big into hunting. Like, we're talking the full spectrum. Turtles, wild boar, deer, like all of that kind of crap.
As much wild game as possible.
Yeah, and he made a comment to me once. It's like getting store-bought meat, that tastes weird to him. He's so, it's way more natural. It's way more, it's just so much better for you. But I think so many of us, and we all know this is just anecdotal, but we've seen stories and comments. There's people out there who don't understand where meat even comes from. Like, oh, I would never do that.
You mean wrapped in cellophane at the store?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like whatever. Like holy
it's like
crap,
it's grown on an assembly line, right?
Yeah.
And yes,
So,
Angry Viking, the stuff I was talking about absolutely is MRE bread. Like, yeah, stuff should not last long. It reminds me real quick. What's that guy? He does MRE videos. Oh, he's
well,
great. I love his videos.
Sticks Hexenhammer used to do them. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about.
Sticks used to do it. No. It's like Mike
Oh,
MRE 1984, I think is his name, or something like that. And I can remember he had a ration from World War II where he popped a bread in a can out and it was still edible. And I was like, man, that's crazy. But I don't want to get too off in the weeds. But the thing is you can make foods that have tons of preservatives that will quote unquote keep you alive and they won't rot on your counter, or you can keep the base ingredients, make it yourself, fresh with
yeah.
love, and those base ingredients before they're mixed can last longer than any of us if you store them properly.
And just
And
on that, and just
yeah,
on that note, so everybody kind of gets a sense of where we're going and some of the topics that we'll be talking about and some of the information we'll be sharing with people over on whatever this other platform is going to be called. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Not going to give out the name yet, but sourdough. I mean, like, so Blake and and his clan, they're already kind of experimenting
we have
with
a
sourdough.
we have a sourdough starter now that's been going for about a month and a half, and every day you got to feed it, or every couple days you got to feed it, depending on how much you take out of it. But I mean, we've already made anywhere from sourdough pancakes with the discard. We've made sourdough crackers. We've made bread loaves. We've made hoagie loaves. The goal is, and the thing that's crazy is we figured it out. So your $5 plus a loaf of bread in the store, if you buy it in the most expensive way, bread flour from Amazon, okay, shipped to your house, super convenient. It's 52 cents a loaf. And that's the most expensive way you can buy it. That's a huge savings.
So even if you want to support that giant company that's named after a mythical tribe of badass female warriors, I don't even like saying their name, but I have to use them too, right? I mean, like, but to Blake's point, we need to find ways, within our world today. Just look around you. So again, this isn't fear porn or clickbait or whatever.
No.
But if you're the guy where the guy or gal, the family, where your only issue here is like, we're only going to be able to take 3 month-long vacations, or I'm only going to be able to buy 1 new car. God bless you. I mean, like, that's awesome. And whatever you've done to get there, hopefully you didn't sell your soul to the devil or sacrifice your morals. So I'm not discrediting, and I'm not that, but that's not where I am, and that's not where the most of the people I know, they're not in that world. So and then it's not just a survival issue, right? It's also like, I actually kind of know, Blake, tell me if I go a little bit too deep here. I don't want to necessarily look, because I know not everybody's religious and not everybody believes in a higher divinity or Christianity or whatever your thing is, right? But for me, I almost see that this is happening for a reason so for some of us, we wake up, pull our heads out of our 4th point of contact, and realize what it means to get back to nature. Again, Evan, I'm sourcing my own protein. The things that Blake and I are talking about, and we'll show you a whole bunch of things that we're already doing, whether it's the glassing of eggs or canning,
or how to clean a deer,
or how to get, exactly.
Just that kind of stuff. Like I'm hoping I can give you guys a bloody video this fall when I've gone out and harvested a few things, because it's all of those things together. And I think, to your point, no, Mark, you're not overstepping. I mean, I've never been bashful about it. I'm a Christian, and really what I am is I'm a Christ follower. Okay, because Christian gets a bad connotation because of, well, a lot of the issues in this world anymore, but I'm a Christ follower. But to that point,
hang on, I just got to do this real quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I know I'm sure this is just somebody having fun, but I just got to throw this up there because hey, Channel 2 Action News, I get the reference there. So I'm sure this isn't a troll, and it's really not.
I like the new comment. I love that name.
Yeah. It's like eating meat is murder. And then it's like, but then, so again, I call it, and it's like, and it tastes so freaking good. So yeah.
Right. Well,
Action News.
And that's the thing. Speaking of eating meat, it's one of the reasons I think I brought this up on a previous podcast. I'm saving up right now to go on a bison hunt, because that's 1,600 pounds of lean beef for my family.
Yeah.
The thing is,
hey, I just got to throw this out there. So I just talked to cousin husband the other day, and bison. This was a huge conversation that was just had over on kind of my side over here.
Yep.
People were talking about bison. I mean, like, so that's just another. That's another thing. If I could do it, I would be eating bison as often as I could.
And that's the thing, is finding as many places as you can augment and do your own thing. So kind of going what you're saying with the religious side of things, the goal is, and you were closer. I don't remember exactly how you said it, so it's not going to be quite as ring true as when you were talking, but the goal is to separate the wheat from the chaff. It's we all realize that this world's changed, right? We all know that the rules are different. We all say it. It's post-COVID times and pre-COVID times. The epoch has shifted. We're all catching up to play at the new rules, whatever you want to call it. We all know the game's changed. So the question is what can we do to better prepare for this new rule set? You know, we've talked about it before, but I think the two things that I can leave you guys with tonight, and then I do got to go because I've been watching my nephews play in the sand in front of me, and I really want to go join in.
Hey, real quickly. Are they
Yeah.
looking over at you and taunting you? Like,
A couple
doing
of them,
shit,
yeah,
like,
it's been off
yeah.
and on. They really want me to go. Like I've had a couple walk up and like kind of like be like 5 feet away from the car, like, hey, what are we doing, right? But anyway, the two things I think I can leave everybody with tonight, and it's two things that we've talked about before, and two things that I hold very important in this time and age. Adopt the Great Depression mindset and build your clan, find your tribe. I don't know how else to say it. And, find out what you're good at, find out what your friends are good at, and start helping each other out, because we're all going to need each other very, very, very soon. In fact, a lot of us need each other now. It's not like we're waiting for this great moment to take place. We need a tribe today. We're going to be thankful that we have one tomorrow, though.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. And hey, you do you. If you want to be the Lord Humongous, well, then I guess I'll see you on the battlefield. But like,
Right.
Your thought is, I'm just going to stockpile ammo and I'm just going to take everybody else's shit. Well, then you've already declared yourself my enemy. So what we're trying to do and what we want to do going forward, and there's going to be, look, everything takes time, and and not throwing Blake under the bus. He's a brand new father, and for those of you who've been married or you've had children or have. You know way more than me. I just know, I make jokes. I'm like, dude, you're working ops like I was when I was downrange. I'm like, you're on combat ops right now.
Yeah. Actually, Mark called me earlier today, and I answered the phone, and I was whispering real quiet, and I was like, you know what, I gotta call you back, and I just hung up on him. And like 15 minutes later, I called him back and was like, dude, what was that about? You're like sounding like you were sneaking up on some dude to try to open his throat. And I was like, no, I was sneaking into the bedroom to try to get laundry so I didn't wake my wife and my son because they were up late last night. So
but seriously, it's like, I can't really talk. I'm like, what is he on a friggin', what is he doing? He's on a recon? What's going on, man? So,
well, hey guys, listen, I'd love to keep talking, Mark. If you can, Mark, though, go into this first 72 a little bit after I'm gone. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I probably will. And we'll see people. I'll just bring it up. I just got the slide deck, and I'll bring it up. But hey, thank you as always for coming on.
For sure.
Hey, and if you don't mind, when you get a chance, talk to your dad, and then
I will.
and then get back to me on that.
Well, and real quick, so real quick, I'll leave you guys with one last thing. I wish I could stay here longer. I wish I could talk longer, but listen, you know what? Family takes priority over a bunch of assholes on the internet. I love you all, but thank you very much for the time and listening to me bloviate. But family's more important. However, to that point, I'm hoping that one of the guests me and Mark are going to bring on soon is actually going to be my father to discuss canning. I think in my lifetime alone, not my dad's lifetime, but my lifetime, I bet I've seen him can over 10,000 cans of goods between pints and quart size. So we're hoping, again, one more thing that we can maybe show you guys how we do things. Not saying it's the right way, it's just a way. But the more we can help, the more we can explain, the more we're going on the pathway of what we're trying to set up here. So
right on. No, and that's it. So everybody, again, hats off to Blake, his family. They're going to have an awesome Independence Day weekend. Blake,
and one last thing I'll say. Speaking of Independence Day, since you brought it up, I kind of avoided the topic a little bit because I know it can get us down a pathway here. Happy Independence Day to all of you. Remember what it is that our forefathers fought for. And I don't know about the rest of you, and I don't want to go too dark here for a second, but I've really been feeling like mourning our nation recently. That this is the first Independence Day that it's not been the same. So while we're all reflecting on the state of our country and maybe even looking at that turned upside down flag that's hanging in our front yard, talk to your loved ones, prepare, start to get a plan together, think about things, because I know I'm not the only one mourning the death of our nation anymore. So I don't want to be too glum on the end, but do look forward to the future.
Yep. When the Roman Empire fell, all the citizens didn't just die. So,
No,
I mean,
no, we all went on. And the Roman Empire fell for hundreds of years, I mean, and there were always little bright spots of civilization. So, although this might be a painful event that we're all going through and that we can clearly see as plain as day is unfolding in front of us, there is good, because although Washington may be burning and although our nation may be coming apart at the seams, we can look around to those that are left and to the right of our shoulders and find solace in the fact that we have a community, or that we're building a community.
Amen. Amen.
All right. God bless everyone. You guys have a
All
great
right.
night.
Hey, holler at me later when you get a chance.
I will, Mark. We'll do an after mission report soon. So see you, buddy.
Okay. All right. See
All
ya.
right. You guys have a good night. God bless everybody. All right. Bye.
All right, boys and girls, let me remove Blake here. Always great having him on. Kind of a weird day. But he squeezed out some time for us, and he's got the family and, they're trying to do their thing here on Independence weekend. Let me just kind of get caught up on comments. I don't remember where we left off. I think we left off with Eric, because I said, winner chicken dinner from the charity auction. So thanks, Eric. And I already sent you that text. So you saw it. I mean, I sent you the picture, so we're good there. I think that's where we left off. Yeah. So right here, Tennessee. No, that's where we left off. That was the grass. Okay. So here we are. Big Visc. Another thing to do with excess eggs is to build up relationships. People love eggs. I give them to my neighbors, and when they have excess stuff, they pay it forward too. Yeah, Roger. Amen. Exactly. Hey, I've got a couple extra dozen eggs. Next thing you know, the guy's like, hey, I've got some extra 2x4s, or do you need, whatever. I just dropped a cedar. Do you need some cedar for starting your fires or whatever? So yeah, you're absolutely right, Big Vis. That's awesome. Tennessee, chickens are stupid easy. It says the person who's doing it. I mean, I think there's others who would disagree. Like, I've never raised chickens. I don't want to say it's stupid easy, but to Tennessee's point, she's saying chickens are stupid easy. I need to find out about the water glass. Now that is stupid easy. It's just a pickling lime, to find it on the internet. I mean, literally it's, a certain amount of pickling lime to every quart of water, and then just keep them in a cool, dry place. And, some people will argue that they last for up to 2 years. That first batch that I did last year, I didn't even touch the first set until 4 or 5 months. So I was eating eggs that were like between 4 and 8 months old, from that batch, and they're natural eggs, so they just kick ass. Tennessee. So to finish up your comment right there, I have chickens. They are awesome pets. Therapy and eggs. And there's that part right there too. There's a little bit of therapeutic, because those aren't just, I mean, you might be raising them to kill them and eat them, or just for their eggs, but yeah, it's just like anything else. You get attached to it, and that keeps your whatever at that physical or mental level. That helps out there too. So yeah, good job, Tennessee. Find your tribe, Tennessee. Create your tribe. Yeah, find your tribe or create your tribe. Absolutely, Tennessee. Don't wait for somebody to come and save you. You are your own hero. I think Jack from Black Scout says that. I think he's the first person I heard say that. You are your own hero, right? So be it. Snowshoe Dave checking in. Sorry I'm late. You'll have to watch after a post. Yeah, hey, Snowshoe. Yeah, I don't know if you're still with us, but go back and watch that. And on that note, before I get to the next comment, and this is community too. So I was just talking to somebody else who's not really in my space for the gear I make, but he's in a different space, and never had a beer with a guy. Absolutely love him. He's just a great guy to talk to. And he shared a post, and anyway, we just had this conversation, and look, the censorship is real. I mean, like, the algorithm is real. Like, so, and I just had a recent example on my side. ScrewTube, or no, it wasn't ScrewTube, it was Insta, and they send me this thing like, hey, congratulations, you just met a new milestone. And I started going into the analytics, and I never do that. I don't have time for that crap. And I went to the analytics, and zero new people outside of people who were subscribed to me saw the post or saw the video. And then I'm like, am I being banned? Because they do that. Like, hey, we don't like what you're doing, so only your subscribers can see it. And like, there's no ban, there's no nothing. It's the same with him. And if there's any knife guys out there, exactly what I'm talking about, because that's their new thing, is to ban knife. So I know it sounds trite and old, but damn it, if you believe in this, like I believe in it, if this is what you want to do, and if you want to take a step it ain't just me. I'm not saying, oh, look at, and like everything and comment on all my videos, but all of that other content out there from all those great men and women who are trying to get this message across or making great gear, trying to, run a small business. You've got to do that because the algorithm doesn't like it. We just did the charity auction for Readiness Training Group, a charity friggin' auction to help school resource officers be better prepared to help defend our children. What do you think happened? ScrewTube totally, and I did that last year. I did 4 charities last year, and every one of those, people couldn't share the videos. It was just, so we have got to find our own way to make that what we do. Like the video, share the video, comment on the video. We've got to find ways to use their tools against them. And that's one of the ways to do it. Angry Viking Veteran, sorry for my long diatribe. Sounds like MRE bread. That's when we were talking back on that bread he had that was 2 months old. Yeah. And then there's actually some really good like survival breads and stuff. So again, you got to look at it and figure out how you're going to approach it. Tennessee, talking with the guy who opens the expired MREs, says it's a cool show. I've never really seen it. Channel 2 Action News, we already kind of talked about this. Meat is murder, but it tastes so freaking good. That's just funny. Tennessee saying we are beginning to look suspiciously like the loose beginnings of a tribe. I can be done, or it can, I think you meant to say it can be done. It must be done in some form or fashion, lest we perish, and we will if we don't do it. Yeah. Tennessee, you're right. If we don't, each and every one of us, take a look in the mirror and figure out what we're going to do to make this better, because there ain't no one coming to save us. It's up to us, boys and girls. Something to the table, we all have value. And then Tennessee, sorry, I got you. And then Tennessee saying, thanks, Blake, you rock. Love that you're a new daddy. Congratulations. Canned elk meat is so effing good. I've never even had elk meat. I can only imagine, because canned meats are really good. Gene from across the pond. We had 36 chickens on a plot of land and swapped for honey, vegetables, and help. Nothing beats right there. Honey, vegetables. And that's exactly the point, to Big Visk and what Blake was talking about as well. Hey, I've got eggs. You're doing bees, boom. Let's just swap some things out. I mean, there's so many ways to do that. Snowshoe Dave likes the tribe idea. Thanks, Dave. Gene, ours were pets too. The wife had 2 called. So the wife had named 2 of the chickens they had, and one was called G-string and the other was called Knickers. That's pretty friggin' funny, but that's it right there. So just even on that mental health side of it, you're getting all that natural protein, those natural eggs, and you're taking care of those animals, and they're dependent upon you, and they're animals, but they have their own personalities. One rooster could be just a real pain in the ass, and there's all kinds of stuff, and it makes you smile, and it's awesome, right? So I think that's cool. Thanks, Gene, for sharing. Renegade Arms, aka Eric. I'm lucky enough that besides hunting, I get most of my meat from a local farm. I garden a lot, have chickens and other stuff. That's what we're talking about, Eric. So stay tuned. We might even ask you to hey, do you want to come on and share some of your stories? I mean, that's what we're trying to do going forward. Angry Viking Veteran, in the future, can I just call you AVV? I think it's just a little bit easier. But Angry Viking Veteran says chickens are easy, but last winter, his chickens stopped laying for a few months. He changed the feed and that fixed it. A guy at his church brought it up. Otherwise, he wouldn't have thought about changing the feed. Community, sharing information, sharing knowledge, right? If you're new at doing something, whether it's canning food, raising a garden, hunting, fishing. Yeah, dude, we don't know what we don't know, and everybody has to start someplace. And then Tennessee, Gene, she says, Gene, no wonder I love you. And then AVV, yup, on the AVV. And then Tennessee, mine lay all year, little darlings, right? So there it is right there. Hey, boys and girls, we're at 53 minutes. Blake wanted me to show just a little bit. So this is a class. So I left the agency in 2012. And I took the first year off, just kind of getting my shit together and my head together. But by 2013, 2014, I wasn't going to do centerline systems for a gear company. We were going to actually have it as a training company. So this is actually a course I put together back in the 2013, 2014 time zone. And Blake just wanted me to share a little bit, because this is probably going to be one of the first places we start. And I just call it the 101. It's the beginner level, but it's more of a conversation. It's more of just getting your brain to think about things that you may not have otherwise considered, or you had taken for granted, or you've forgotten. It's really more just of a, so this isn't necessarily in a classroom hands-on. It's a more of a conversation, but it's built on, a lot of those experiences, like, Blake's experiences, my experiences, growing up as a kid in the military, my military, all that kind of stuff. But I think at the end of the day, it's really just a common sense perspective. So I'm just not gonna do this whole thing. I'm just gonna kind of bring this to stage and kind of talk through it real quickly. So, you think about it, 3 minutes, 3 days, however you want to break that down. It is interesting to me, though, that three has a really important role in our lives, things that are divisible by three. But again, so 3 minutes without this, 3 days without that, 3 weeks, so there's something to be said about it. For me, I didn't actually, when I titled this the first 72 hours, it didn't dawn on me that I was doing three. It was a conversation I had with my uncle that first year I was back. This is how this whole course came about, because we were sitting around talking one day, and we were just joking about zombie apocalypse and what may or may not happen. And it was, I can't remember what I said, but his response was like, no, dude, the zombies are what happens to the normies 3 days without their cell phones, 3 days without the internet, 3 days without their cash card. That's, and I was like, that's a great point, right? So it's preparing for the obvious and the not so obvious, because it isn't always about zombie apocalypse. It isn't nuclear war. And, and when we do this, and I don't know if the slide will come up, but, you really need to look at, where do you live? Are there tornadoes, hurricanes, ice storms? Like, I was in Illinois for a good chunk of my life. Freezing rain, was the biggest, problem out there. Knocked out power for so many people so many times, right? Northern Minnesota is 60 below and you lose power. You live down in Florida or in the Gulf, or on the East Coast, it's hurricanes. It isn't just, the Mad Max or any of that stuff. There's so many other issues that you should be preparing for. So preparedness shouldn't be a scary word. I mean, like, it should be called, like, no, I'm an adult and I have children, or I have a husband or a wife, and I'm doing the right thing because I need to be prepared so I can take care of my family and we can survive a crisis. And that's something I think a lot of people overlook, is there's crisis management and consequence mitigation. There's some things that you're just not going to control unless you control the weather and, all that other kind of stuff. No. So then you just figure out, how can you manage that crisis and how can you mitigate the consequences of that crisis? So when we kind of, let me just jump through here. Yeah. So you can kind of see the outline of, of the conversation there of what we're talking about. I guess I'm not really going to go into it too much, but I'll just simply say, like, preparing for a crisis while you're in the middle of a crisis is an incredibly bad technique. So if you think it's going to get better, that's awesome. If you think things are going to stay the same, you should start preparing. If you think things are going to get worse, you should start preparing. Even if things get better, what about if the next time around it's worse? So being prepared isn't a bad thing. I don't know. I think media, where we are, has tried to make that into, like, oh, this is horrible, you guys are conspiracy theorists, and and all that kind of crap. That's not it at all. I mean, that's not the point. You should always be prepared. One of my favorite stories, what was this, 5 or 6 years ago, a windstorm came through here in the Duluth, Minnesota area. A shit ton of people had trees over their roads and without power for a week, and it was just amazing to see how many people, like, a week later, still had trees in front of their yard. Like, you don't have a chainsaw? This is where maybe you don't burn firewood, but how do you not have an axe? How do you not have a chainsaw? It's like saying, how do you not have cold weather clothing in northern Minnesota, right? These are the things that, when you really take a step back and you exclude the fantastical zombie apocalypse or nuclear war. I mean, nuclear war, there's a probability that could happen. And even if that probability is super small, the consequences of that event are unbelievable, right? So you kind of have to look at that. What's the probability? Because I have limited time, limited resources. How am I going to address these things? Hey, it's most likely I'm going to have a freezing rainstorm, a snowstorm, a hurricane, an X, Y, and Z, and I have to be prepared for that. And that's going to vary through regions, and it's how you're going to respond to that. That's going to vary from person to person, because I don't know your medical situation. I don't know your physical situation. I don't know your familial situation. Do you live in an urban environment, a rural environment? How many roads? You see what I'm getting at? There's a lot of thought that has to go into it, and it's not crazy thought. I personally believe that if you're an adult, a rational adult sitting at the adult table, that's the kind of conversation you should be having. And I think what Blake and I, on our own personal level, are coming to is we're already doing this shit, boys and girls. We're just like, okay, you know what? I'll feel bad about myself. I won't feel good if I stand in front of the pearly gates one day and I can't say that I did everything I could to help other people out and share whatever whether you say it's bullshit knowledge or limited, whatever. But if I can't share and use these capabilities and these platforms to help other people, then I'm not gonna. Yeah, I just don't really feel that good about myself. Hey, we're at an hour. I'm gonna wrap it up. I couldn't really see him, but I could see out of the corner of my eye some comments coming in. Let's wrap. Let's read some of these comments and then kind of wrap this up, because we're going to do a lot more of this. So just stay tuned. God Hammerspring, I'm still alive. G-Dog Hammerspring. Yeah, we haven't seen you a long time, my good man. I was kind of wondering. I like that. Tennessee. Mark, this was awesome. Going to go back and watch what I missed. Nothing is too small. 3 is the magic number. She did another comment saying, shit, the magic number. Yeah, there's something about 3, right? It just is. I like Snowshoe Dave. FEMA, they're coming to take care of us, right? That's exactly the point. I mean, and look around. Like, you know, anytime any government entity gets involved in anything, it always gets effed up. Or they create the situation so they can say, hey, we're the government and we're here to take care of you. Like, you know, oh, horrible. Snowshoe, that was awesome comment right there. And then following up, yeah, no one is coming to take care of us. It is up to us. It is up to us. You are your own hero. And you just have to do it. And then Angry Viking Veteran, it was Jack at Black Scout and you that made me question my preps. And matter of fact, Angry AVV, I think that no one is coming to save us. Be your own hero. I think I heard that from Jack initially too. But back to AVV's comments, Jack, Black Scout made us question the preps. I was surprised to find holes in my preps I had no idea were there. It is great to hear other people's thoughts on prepping. Yep. So stay tuned. Again, this isn't scary. This isn't zombie apocalypse. This isn't even political. This is shit everybody should be doing, because you don't control Mother Nature and you don't control what is going to be thrown at you. Gene from across the pond. Gene says, happy 4th of July, everyone, from the losers over the pond. Because, you know, for them, this is Trader Day, you know, or whatever they call it. But Gene, well said, sir. That was awesome. I appreciate that. Big Visk. Yeah, there it is. We're from the government and we're here to help. Yeah. The phrase you never want to hear. Yeah, there it is. And you just said it. One of the scariest things. Tennessee, back at you, Gene, and to everybody, happy 4th of July. And then she's laughing at Big Visks. Yeah, we're from the government. We're here to help. All right, boys and girls. I think that's going to wrap it up. We still got 2 more days, and then, you know, we got Independence Day. I hope everybody has a just incredibly fun, safe, enjoy time with your friends and family. You know, and then, you know, what Blake said, maybe take a second and just kind of reflect back on, you know, what it took to. How did those men and women back then, you know, rise up against the most powerful nation, both in terms of physical army and maritime power? And how did we pull this off? And I know there's somebody who's going to watch this and be like, oh, you know, the Declaration of Independence, you know, whatever, blah, 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 America, you know, seriously, you know, like find me a political document. And it is a political document. We all know that, but find me a political document in the history of humanity that is just, you know, and don't ascribe the sins of the fathers onto that, you know, like, yeah, it was a different era, you know, like, oh, it's a horrible document because some of those guys, the founding fathers, had slaves. So did most people, to include black people. I mean, like, so adult table conversation, right? Yeah. History was different back then, you know, and here to that point, and maybe, you know, if you want to like, oh, the Declaration, you know, you guys, the Constitution, you guys suck. Well, okay, then should we go back to when 13-year-old women were like, you know, just given away as brides and then they were forced to have children? I mean, today we call that pedophilia. So like, what the hell? Where are you going to draw the line there, buddy? So for any of those people who want to poo-poo shit. Gene, it took guts and friendship to beat us, and you did. And that's You know, I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about, right? Final comment here. My cabin is calling off grid. And then a whole bunch of emoticon things, which I don't know how to read emoticon. I don't speak that language. Yo puedo hablar español und ich kann auf Deutsch gesprochen, aber I don't speak emoticon, Tennessee. So I don't know what that phrase means. Keep bobbing and weaving, though. That I understand. Never let them catch you, right? And yeah, head down and keep throwing punches. All right, boys and girls, I think we're going to wrap it up right there. Again, I hope everybody has a great Independence weekend, no matter where you are, right? Doesn't matter where you are. Our founding fathers wrote that document for our country. That document applies to all of humanity. It doesn't apply to America. That's a document about freedom. That's about who we are as humans and what we stand for. And end it right there. Community, tribe, whatever you want to call it. You know, look around. I do believe that even through all the shit that's taking place right now, there's a golden opportunity for us as human beings to be better, whether that's at the individual level, the family level, the community level, whatever it is. There's an opportunity here for us, and that's what we want to push forward. So, all right, everybody, be good. We'll see everyone. Last comment. One more thanks to everybody who helped support the RTG charity auction. Big shout out to Eric, the winner. But thank you guys so very much. That's what we're kind of talking. And if you haven't noticed, what I've been doing with these live streams is trying to work in this direction, right? It is about community. It's about giving back, and it's about we're all in this together. So on that note, we'll see you again on Thursday, the 11th of July at the same bat time, bat channel, 1700 Central Daylight Time. And we'll have some more information to go from there. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think our first guest coming back is going to be Clint from Nemesis Camo, because, he was on, but we had that video issue. And I want to bring him back on and so everybody can see him and we just have this conversation. He's such a great guy right there too. And we'll have some more updates on the Nemesis Camo on the website coming really soon. So, all right, everybody, you know the deal. Reach out if you ever have any questions. I will do the best I can to help you out. Until then, keep thinking, keep moving, never quit. All right, everybody, be good. We'll see you Thursday, the 11th of July. All right, everybody. Woo!